Victory or death! Ruktar Ogar! I choose death!
And we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the hardcore community, welcome to what we hope is going to be, the first of many hardcore streams. If anybody is wondering what's going on here, maybe I can give a brief introduction for, the purpose of doing one of these streams and why I think it's needed in our community. But we've got myself.
It's your boy Nomnom here. Nomnom makes you here in the flesh. 2-time 60 hardcore champion.
And the author of hardcore himself, rocking the rally cap.
I love how I can fucking make fun of someone else doing it, Grace, because it happens to me every GMA, bro. Like, I always have the labels fucked up.
Yeah, we even set up for this too, man. That's what the funny part is.
Every time, man. So we've got Nomnom, Kargoz, myself, definitely people who I would consider the three of us all in on hardcore. I don't think any of us play any other version of Classic or World of Warcraft right now. We're really passionate, really excited about hardcore. We stream all the time. But yeah, I'm really excited about this podcast, and we've been talking about this for a month or so, but I think that we need to have a setting where the community can come together with, I guess you consider us the mods. Kargoz kind of is the author of everything that has come about of hardcore, but you guys, me, Nomnom, and everybody that plays and who's just in the chat is just as much a part of the community. So we need a setting where we can all come together. We can talk about rules, technicalities, how to improve the game mode. Like we're constantly seeing hardcore. It's very much in its alpha or beta phase, and I don't know where we're gonna go with this, but we all need to have a place where we can all talk about it. So a lot of questions have come up recently, like that Kargoz will answer, Nomnom will answer, myself I'll answer. Like people are always asking about trading rules, or they're always asking about small technicalities, and we all we have the same idea, but maybe we give a little bit of a different version of an answer. So that's the purpose of the stream. But yeah, I'm really glad that we got Kargoz, Nomnom here, and everyone that's a part of the chat. So I've got everybody's chat on the screen, and I'm hoping that this gives us a feel of you're just as much a part of the stream and your opinion is just as valid as ours is. So without further ado,
Let's go. Grace, you're an amazing host, man, already, dude. Better than me, but on my first try. But yo, look at this. What are you playing in the background? Is this Unreal Stormwind? It looks insane, bro. This is the journey.
The Unreal Engine, and I don't know if this is maybe it's perfect for the hardcore stream because we're doing something different. We want to see the game bigger than it is right now, and yeah, the Unreal Engine versions of the game. I always say the dream is to play WoW in VR, and so it's kind of cool that in this hardcore setting we have a different game mode behind us. I mean, we've got our own hardcore banner. Kargoz is rocking the Diablo UI, and a lot of you guys who play as well, you have a completely different UI. So we're trying to create something outside of Classic, and so it kind of feels cool. We're kind of making like an old school RuneScape mod weekly podcast, and I'm hoping that this is what it'll turn into. But yeah, it's pretty neat. Real quick, where's everybody at? We'll just do Kargoz and Nomnom. What are your hardcore characters looking like? And I do this with the chat as well. If you're playing hardcore, put your class and your level, and then we'll jump into our first topic. But yeah, I just saw you finish the Paladin, Kargoz. What's it looking like?
Pally's good. I feel definitely really strong with the Pally. I love so much that hardcore makes you build the talents out differently. Like truly, like, it's not even like you're trying to RP build the talents out differently. You genuinely, from the bottom of your heart, feel like a different talent build is going to be perform the best in a hardcore environment. And I love that it's truly that impactful. The death penalty makes it so that you play differently, you build your talents differently. Everything is different. It's kind of like a new game, man. So I'm loving the Pally.
Nomnom, I saw that you're on a freaking quest, man. Your warrior's looking good. You beat your personal best on the first warrior that you made. What level are you right now?
I'm level 50. I'm almost 51. And yeah, same thing with Kargoz, man. This is I think my 5th warrior. I was prot my first 4 times, and I had to rediscover how I wanted to play. So I went Fury, gonna finish on arms. But yeah, man, I'm almost 51, and yeah, man, I love this game mode. I love we're doing this podcast, man. It's exciting to talk about everything with the community.
That's awesome. And the community as well. I do this a couple times in my stream. It blows me away how many 20 plus members we have, 30 plus. I saw a couple 40s. I don't know what the highest level I saw, but the community's really coming around. I think the first 6 months of hardcore being out, we had 5 players, 6 characters hit level 60. And I think in the last 7 months, we've had that go up to like 25, almost 25 people hit level 60 now. And that's still an extremely small percentage of the community, but it's really cool to see the community growing and, a lot of you guys getting your new personal bests and hopefully getting to level 60. Myself, I'm just running off my last run on my druid. I finally completed the challenge 6 months later. I'm playing my gnome mage. I've been itching to get back into it. I was off for the weekend, and yeah, I'm level 31 on my gnome mage right now. So,
seem to be loving the mage, bro. I think you found your spirit class. You're moving with a purpose with that thing, man. By the way, do you know how to push the nameplates over? You might have to hit transition. I feel like you did line it up, but didn't hit transition. I'm just like seeing myself, and you have made like every single mistake like this too. Like if you just
I'm liking. I had some years taken off my life, man.
Which nameplates? Which ones?
Do you see how it says Nomnom under me and Kargoz under Nomnom? I mean, we could just keep it that way. It's all good. I'm happy to have 2 hardcore 60s for the day.
It's kind of fun. Everybody's chasing after.
I just de-leveled in life. Oh, come on.
Yeah, everyone's chasing after the Nomnoms 2-time level 60s.
Another thing too is, I'm just throwing it out here. I mean, I'm just so happy Grays is taking the initiative to spearhead something like this, and it's just so awesome. I feel like it's going to add more structure and more of a pulse to the community. And like you said earlier, man, I'm having more fun playing hardcore than I ever have, really, with classic point blank. Period. And a huge part, probably the largest reason why that is that we actually have assembled a really good group of people here. Like people are looking out for each other. The vibes, 99 point. Of course, you have a few bad apples here, there, right? But 99.5% of everybody in the community is awesome, man. Like really great. And on this pilot episode or whatever. Sorry about the blender. In the chat, let us know what you think we should cover. What do you guys find entertaining on these types of things too? Like, is it death clips, highlight reels, or whatever? Because I think we're very much feeling it out as well. Like, Grace, sorry about the noise.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's great. That's the perfect way to transition into like our first topic. I want to talk to everyone about the possibility and what it would look like if we had an official hardcore server. And what you guys think. The Discord's been blowing up recently. We have a feedback section, and I think I made a comment about it, and everybody just blew up. And everyone has an opinion, and I think it's great. And I've been wanting to talk about it, not just on my own personal stream, but what do you guys think about an official hardcore server? Whenever we first started hardcore, I mean, I said it, and I think a lot of us I think we all thought it at one point. The dream is to have an official hardcore server. And I kind of want to talk about the pros and cons. The pros and cons of having our own hardcore server. And let me see if I can pull up. I've got a few bullet points I can share with everybody. But yeah, I just want to start off. Pros and cons. So originally I wanted a hardcore server, and a lot of people, I'll just be frank, don't necessarily think it's the best route. They don't think that hardcore would survive if we had an official Blizzard hardcore server, and I want to talk about that today. So let's start off with the pros. I think we can all agree the barrier to entry would be decimated. If we had an official hardcore server right now, you have to stream and record locally, or you have to record locally, or you have to stream your gameplay 1 to 60. And my rule of thumb, what I always say is you have to have 98% of your run recorded in order for it to be in bounds with being able to be verified and get your name in the Hall of Legends. But the barrier to entry, if we had a hardcore server, would be completely decreased. There'd be a lot more people that could play, and then a couple other things would be, we would be able to trade, and this would open up the possibility of people using enchanting and being able to trade conjurables inside of dungeons. I know that's a hot topic. We always open up chests in dungeons right now, and everyone's like, oh, I accidentally looted that green cloth belt. Can I not just trade it to the guy? And it's like, well, with the way our setup is right now, it would cause more issues than it would fix. And so you would be able to trade conjurables. You could make a whitelist of items, like the blacksmithing rods that you make for enchanting, and conjurables. Maybe you could allow those things to be traded and just allow the trade function to be in the game, but those are the only things you could trade. Also, the last thing I think that would be a pro, you would have this exclusive hardcore environment. And while I'm talking about this, Kargoz and Nomnom, y'all might have things you want to add in this, but this is my last point, is I did fishing lately, and I ran into one other guy that passed by me while I was fishing, and we were both sitting outside Stormwind in some little pond, just casting our rod and reel. And we actually talked across the pond. He got on the other side of the pond. For some reason, he didn't want to be next to me. And we were whispering back and forth the whole time. And it was really cool. We were both, I think I was level 15, he was level 10, and we were both working on our fishing together. And I just imagined a world where everyone's in the starting zone in L1 Forest, and you've got like 15 level 6 or level 10 characters all casting a rod and reel outside the ponds in L1 Forest. And you never see that. And so I think it would create a very interesting environment where we're not just playing on Bloodsail Buccaneers with, you know, the other RP players and everything else they're doing, but I think it would make for an interesting environment. What do you guys think about the benefits of having our own hardcore server, Nom or Kargoz, or if you see anybody in the community that had something good to say?
I'm taking notes of the good comments too, so whatever you feedback you guys put in the Twitch chat or whatever, I'm writing it down, so we could potentially bring it up at some point. But anyway, yeah, you want to start now?
Yeah, I mean, I think at its core, it'd be wonderful just to imagine a server where every single person had one life. Like just the whole thought of everybody running around, that's their only life, to me is really appealing. My two issues are the DC deaths, and then secondly, if we didn't have it coded in, like for multiple dungeons, I think you'd see the boosting and, you know, the meta and everything that's going on today, which is kind of antithetical to why we're doing hardcore to begin with. So, but I would love to see one, but with those two caveats.
Okay, I have a big mouthful here to say. Okay, so first of all, I'm so glad that this is an issue that we're even talking about, right, guys? Because how cool is that we're in this world where there's compelling enough reasons to have a non-Blizzard, like a non-hardcore Blizzard server, like a community-run server as opposed to an official one, you know, because, you know, there could be a world where just an official hardcore server is better in every way, right? And it's sort of, we're just doing some fugazi, janky version of what could possibly be so much more. With that in mind, I think I do want an official hardcore server. I think it would be so unbelievably immersive to be in a true hardcore server, and it would be unlike anything I've ever experienced in any video game, where you go in and everyone you see around you truly has one life. It's not like you're part of this small community in the broader server and you're trying to, you know, finesse this equilibrium between the normal multi-lifers and the hardcore players. It would be so immersive to know that all these people running around have had one life. With that said, there are some cons to an official hardcore server. And the first question I want to present to the people is that how much of a percent of the experience is solo self-found gear rule set? You know, is it 25% of the experience? Is 25% of the enjoyment of playing hardcore the idea that you have to go and scavenge stuff out in the open world and not have access to the auction house or trading? For some people, it might be more than 25%. For some people, the real value out of hardcore is truly just the permadeath aspect of it. So if Blizzard made hardcore servers, they would likely just disable the ability to respawn, right? And you would have access to the full game other than that. So I want to throw that out there as a talking point.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll cover the cons, and just to wrap up the thought of it, it would be great to have an official hardcore server for various reasons that we pointed out, but also, if we had an official hardcore server, I think the only way I would be satisfied, and maybe a lot of you guys, this is what I read in like the feedback channel in Discord, was they would have, I think the problem is if Blizzard made an official hardcore server, they would have to upkeep it. And they would have to constantly be making changes. I've talked about adding an achievement system, you know, to hardcore a couple years down the road, maybe 1 year down hardcore lifespan, and so we're looking at 2 or 3 years worth of hardcore content possibly before everybody burns out. If we had an achievement system, maybe it adds an extra 3 or 4 years. The point is, the game is always evolving. If you look at Classic WoW, it was released in 2004, and the upkeep they've done on it 15 years later, you see the product that they have. And so I think the biggest con of having an official hardcore server is I think there needs to be a lot of upkeep, and the DC deaths being permanent, I don't know how they would get around that. That's a huge con, but the coding limitations, and this is why I think an official hardcore server made by Blizzard wouldn't necessarily happen. You look at some of the private servers that a lot of people have put out, a lot of people rave about, like Nostalrius or a couple classic servers that came out before Classic was launched. There was really good feedback because the people that put those servers on were constantly evolving the game mode. But the coding limitations for Blizzard making an official hardcore server, at face value, I think right now it's too much. They would never do it. We would never be satisfied, because you would have to have one instance ID with like the dungeon runs and the grouping, and I think we could get around this. Like whenever you enter a zone, like whenever you're just outside Wailing Caverns and you just walk into that cave, you know how it says you enter the zone Wailing Caverns. You would have to make it to where you could only group inside those dungeon zones, and then somehow like a raid ID, you could only get one instance ID for instances. Could Blizzard do that? I would imagine they could, but it would probably cost a lot of money. It would be a lot of upkeep. Another issue would be respawns in the dungeon. This is something we talked about, or this is an issue that came up whenever Kargoz and myself ran Stockades a couple days ago, last Friday, and we killed a respawn, and guess what? People would, water always finds a crack. People are always going to exploit the game as much as they can, and so maybe there would be a rule where they only allow respawns once inside of dungeons, or else people could infinitely farm elites on their one instance ID. Also, trading, the limitations that would involve it, making a whitelist of tradable items, maybe the coding, it's too expensive to do something like that. So whenever we first started hardcore, if you would have asked me 5 months ago if I wanted an official hardcore server, I would have said yes. But after looking at everything and seeing a lot of people's feedback in the Discord, right now, 6 or 7 months into hardcore, I think the only realistic dream for me would be to have like a private server run by private server players that did all this coding and upkeep, and that's where I see the possibilities of an official hardcore server. But yeah, that's kind of.
I think a private server would do it better than Blizzard, absolutely. Especially because you'd feel like we'd have more leverage to be able to control things, but at the same time, Nomnom has made this point before too. I'll play the private servers if there's no option, if there's no official option from Blizzard, right? Like, it's sort of the type of thing that classic WoW has to be preserved for like historical purposes, but if Blizzard's going to offer something officially, it feels only right to support like the official one that they're offering, so like I would be pretty torn with that if there was like a private server and just in good conscience playing this private server for hardcore. But yeah, like somebody in the chat just mentioned a second ago, things evolve, things change over time, right? And like people in the chat have big brain ideas to twist the game to make it more fun, and people are thinking about seasons, achievements, all these things, on an official hardcore server. I don't know if we would be able to pull it off. I mean, maybe we could. Like tweak have custom rules even on an official hardcore server where it's permadeath. I guess you could try to enforce rules beyond that, but I don't know. You see what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only way hardcore survives right now, and the only reason it's fun, is because there's like a Boy Scout code of honor to our game mode right now. I'm sure if somebody really wanted to, they could exploit. They could level up 1 to 60. They could. I don't want to make anybody. I don't want to give anyone ideas, but they could get a character 1 to 60 with HC in their name. They could forge a Blizzard ticket that says they have 0 deaths. But like I heard Nomnom say one time, it's like cheating in this game mode right now is like cheating in solitaire. Like, and so I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would want, as I said, I would only like a server that could incorporate almost the entire rule set we've created here. Like, I wouldn't want there to be a few things missing, right? Like, if they decided to put the auction house in, that's a no-go for me, right? If they decided, if there was no instance cap, that'd be a no-go for me. So it would have to be a situation where we'd almost have to control everything, which might be a pipe dream, right? That we get like our entire rule set, on a hardcore server.
Nam, you're the only person in the community that has 2 hardcore 60s. Let me ask you, what percentage of your enjoyment of hardcore comes from the idea of solo self-found versus permadeath or whatever? How would you just ballpark those?
No, I mean, solo self-found is probably the number one thing. I love getting excited over a green. I like fighting my way to get to a treasure chest. I love finding new quests, looking forward to stuff to do. Like, 100%. I mean, that's the golden ticket for me.
So what about this? This is a hot take. Would you guys sacrifice? Because we're making the rules really complicated. Would you guys sacrifice the 1 instance ID rule where you can go into dungeons with 4 other players or even just 1 other player? Would you sacrifice that rule entirely? because that would take a lot of the busy work out of making an official server. They wouldn't have to, they could just disable grouping, they could disable trading, they could disable auction house. Would you sacrifice that rule to have that solo self-found game? And someone like Nomnom probably says yes. I know that you're not too involved in or keen on doing dungeons with other people, but myself, that's some of the most fun I've had in hardcore recently, is going into dungeons. And I mean, it might be one of those instances you can't have your cake and eat it too. And so maybe a year or two down the road, whenever, if hardcore were to grow so big that it just gets overtaken by the masses, and we can't necessarily enforce these rules, then maybe that's the route we have to go down, is you have to sacrifice the one instance dungeon rule. But what do you guys think about that? Would you, in the community as well, do you care about the dungeons? Would you rather have, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
The dungeons. Okay, so I guess if you're saying in a scenario, if I had to make a sacrifice, I would be fine with unlimited dungeons if we lowered the cap that you could enter the dungeon. So you're capped at the boss's level, right, or something that made it a little more difficult. Like that would be something that I'd be willing, to sacrifice. So, because dungeons, because I have not run a dungeon yet, it's just personal. I cleared it on my 2 best classes. I'm doing warrior, which is probably one of the hardest classes I've never done. After this, I'm going to run dungeons. I like dungeons. I like the challenge, 2-man, 3-man. I'm about all that. So.
Type of one in the chat if you guys want seasons, some sort of seasonality with achievements and accomplishments, leaderboards. I think I would just guess that most people would want that. And the cool thing about seasons would be it would allow you to test new rules. So one thing could be like for season 2 hardcore, you could only enter dungeons if you were below the meeting stone. We could try that. It could be an epic disaster, right? But if people know there's a 3-month season, they'd be like, all right, I only have to endure this bullshit for 3 months and then it'll probably be gone, right? So like, if Deadmine's meeting stone range, what is it, guys? Like 17 to 24 or something?
17 to 26.
What if the only way you could do dungeons was if you were under the meeting stone? I like leveraging the meeting stone because it's something that you can point to Blizzard at. You can be like, look, Blizzard just said the designated range is this. So if anybody has any questions in game of like, what level can I run this dungeon? They can just look at the meeting stone and be like, all right, I can't be the minimum level on that. Now, the downside of that is it could be infuriating being in the dungeon, because when you're fighting mobs that are too high level, some of the actual ability to control and finesse gets taken away in the sense that just stuff doesn't connect, right? If something's too high level, you try to hodge something, you try to sheep something, and it resists. But it would certainly make the dungeons more challenging, and that's some feedback that I've taken away from Nomnom's stream that I definitely agree with to a certain extent. If you're a high-speed player, the dungeons feel pretty damn safe, but at the same time, they do feel good, right? And you have to ask yourself, are we rooting for people to succeed and get 60? Like, what's the downside of people getting 60? They're just having fun with the game. They can do it on different classes. And believe it or not, there are some people that are new to the game or not as high speed that want to participate too, right? And like, if the dungeons are too hard, maybe they're just going to die and have a bad time. So, even if they are easy, maybe that's not necessarily the bad thing, because there's 2 factors here, right? There's the difficulty, which some people come into my streams all the time and they say, you call it hardcore, it's so easy, like Iron Man's so much harder, you use white weapons. Undoubtedly, Iron Man is harder in that sense, but that doesn't always mean it's a better format, just because it's harder. There's this other aspect, guys, known as FUN, fun. How fun something is to watch and play, right? So do I want to see somebody sit there and melee something with green weapons for 20 minutes to kill it? Probably not, right? So these are just all things to consider, right?
Yeah, I like the idea of seasons, and maybe that's the route hardcore is going to end up going down. So what are we looking at right now? Once TBC comes out, are people, we don't know if we're going to get an official classic server that we could continue to do hardcore on. I would imagine a lot of us would be playing TBC, and we'd want to give TBC hardcore a shot. So in essence, we have a season that's going to have an end pretty soon. Once TBC comes out, we'll probably still have these servers and we could possibly play on them, but it might be beneficial for the community to put a stake in the sand and say, hey guys, guess what? This was season 1 of hardcore. Look at the Hall of Legends. And like you were talking about earlier, I saw it at the end of your stream, Kargoz. Sometimes it's good to get a fresh reset. I don't know if it would be good or bad for the community, but we can have season 2 come out whenever TBC gets launched. And I would hope, by the time TBC comes out, we would have like a decent achievement system for the next season of Classic possibly. But a lot of our minds will probably be on hardcore TBC, and everybody wants to play TBC content. So seasons.
Yeah, seasons would be sick. The only point of running a dungeon once is to stop spell cleave. Yeah, that's true. I mean, there's other reasons too, but yeah, I think at this point, you know how people come in the chat all the time and ask about, you know, the rules and stuff. Things have been pretty fleshed out thanks to the you know, the streams of everybody. Like everything has been pretty thought out at this point. But yeah, I mean, what do you feel about that, Nomnom? Doing dungeons below the meeting. So some people, you know, type something in the chat if you feel that dungeons are your favorite part of hardcore. There is a percentage of people that feel that way. They foam from the mouth when it comes to hardcore dungeons. It is so much more rewarding when you get a piece of gear and you know it can only has the potential to drop once. That whole excitement is really there. So it could, you know, following that guiding North Star of fun to play, fun to watch, it might be more fun to play and fun to watch if the dungeons were spicier. So if you could only go under the meeting stone range, I'm curious, do you think that's too extreme? Nom and Gray, what do you feel about that?
So I feel like the rewards that are in the dungeons are really powerful compared to what's out in the world. But I know how much people love to do them, and I mean, I'm gonna start doing them myself. I would hate if it was too hard and then people got frustrated, and then if the dungeons were one of the major reasons, you know, why they like to do this and they quit. So I guess it's that balance, right, between keeping it difficult, which it already is, and then keeping, you know, everybody engaged and wanting to do it. So I guess the seasons might just be a good idea, because we would maybe just have to test it out. I don't really know if I have like the answer, the solution. So
I would just imagine, and you know, I'm trying to learn from history. I would imagine that hardcore needs to be updated in some capacity in order to keep the community engaged and involved. And let's just take a glance at old school RuneScape. I was looking at their YouTube feed right before the stream happened, and they're constantly making updates to the game and there's no reason why we couldn't do that with hardcore. So
what do you feel about the dungeon level though being under the meeting stone? Do you think, like, and this is a question for the chat too, could you do SM Cathedral at under the meeting stone range? Like for something like Dead Mines, I think you could do it at like 16 with a full group of high 16s, sticky glue, all this type of shit. You could clear Dead Mines, but I think to myself, what about RFD? What about SM? What about, like, if you had to be under the meeting stone range, is it possible to even do these dungeons? But maybe it would be truly epic. Like maybe you would show up to party, like you would have full buffs, full everything, and be taking those dungeons dead ass seriously, and it might deter people from doing dungeons a lot. So I'm just trying to think of the implications of it.
Yeah, I think Scarlet Monastery, the meeting stone is like 28 to 42, but I think on Wowhead, like Cathedral has like a low end of 36. So maybe we could figure out how to get people in there at level 35 to try out Scarlet Monastery. But I think it would be cool to mix things up in that sense, because I mean, what did me, you, and Tactics, we three-manned Wailing Caverns and Dead Mines the other day. Those are the lower level dungeons, and you know, as soon as I started my stream the next day, somebody was like, well, what are we gonna do about like, should we change the rule set because the dungeons are too easy? I think that if we had that rule set implemented, you would definitely see people only go up to about Scarlet Monastery, because the bosses we were talking about on our last 1 to 60 run, we didn't want to do Uldaman because the last boss just hits too hard, and so there would definitely be a cutoff. Is that bad game design to only allow people to access the first half of the dungeons?
I don't think it's too much lower. Like the final boss, right, Mograine, he's it's level 42, so we'd be cutting it down from 45 to 42. So we're not gonna be. You never would have to fight an orange mob. Like you would be. You know, you'd be yellow, you know, if you went in at 40, 41. So just whatever the final level is of the final boss, we don't want to make it. So we don't want to make it so hard, like as Kargoz saying, man. Everything gets resisted. I mean, that's not even fun, right?
Here's the thing, though, that I'm concerned about. Because it's a community challenge, there's a high potential of things being like cringily micromanagey. Like when it comes to the rule set, some people, we already get that. I think we do a good job though of pulling it off, being like, yo, guys, if at the end of the day, if you're not feeling it or whatever, like if you don't really feel like recording, like knock yourself out and go play. It's just not going to be verified. That's our one thing that we can, you know, cherish and hide away and tuck away as our little precious achievement. You know, the whole verified aspect of it. But you know, a part of me thinks if we say the Dead Mines max level limit is some arbitrary thing within the meeting stone, people might be like going like, damn, dude, these people are just really trying to micro. You know, what you know, decide, like, you know, who are they to decide the power level of this dungeon type thing, you know, as opposed to like you can kind of blame it around the meeting stone in any direction, be like you're either in the meeting stone or below it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but you can kind of point to the meeting stone, and then that way people can check in game as well, as opposed to having to go to like the website and look up, all right, what's the max level I can do this dungeon at, like according to the high council of hardcore people.
Right.
You know, oh, it's like 23, okay, you know, but if you could just check in game and be like, oh, there's the meeting stone.
Do you think we could pull that off, like in a community sense, or do you think it'd have to be a hardcore server to like implement a hard rule like that? Possibly seasoned in like a hardcore server, like by a private server of Blizzard, is how I would see it. I don't know if we could get the community behind agreeing on entering dungeons at a certain level.
I'm also fine with the status quo. I don't think the dungeons are an issue. I guess the question was more phrased like in a perfect world, if I had to change one thing, if we had to, you know, yeah. So yeah, I mean, I also don't feel that there's a problem. I don't think it's being exploited. We still only have 20 level 60s, and just from my gut analysis, I mean, we've had 10, 15, 20,000 attempts. So we're still in a fraction of a percent of people
Absolutely.
that are clearing the challenge. So it's already plenty difficult as it is. So all of us here, we have hardcore 60s, and we've died 15, 20 times each. Yep. So I mean,
I died on the class that I thought was unkillable. I played Paladin, died at 17, and then I re-rolled. You know, like the thing is, too, guys. I don't know if you guys agree in the chat, but the hardcore is working like beautifully well. Like everything is just falling into place perfectly. Like, even the idea of fishing up rocket fuel the other day, like that just really delighted me. But nothing is really broken with the current rule set. It's great right now. Like things are fun, you know. And here's the question I would ask you guys, chat. Are you rooting for people to fail? Like a lot of people say, like world buffs are too easy, dungeons too easy. Do you want these like group of your peers to die? Like, do you want them to? I mean, there always has to be that level of spice, but I mean, like I'm rooting for these people to succeed. It doesn't always have to be the most hard thing ever, to the point where people are, you know, like I want these people to get 60 and get that accomplishment and to do it again on another character and to feel kind of happy, you know, like, and feel like progression and stuff like that. So
yeah, I the way I see it, man, half the time I'm watching hardcore streams, I never go against the juicy death clip. Yeah, it's like people comparing hardcore streams to NASCAR. Like the only reason they watch NASCAR is for the wrecks or the restarts and the big wrecks, which is a terrible way to look at it. But you know, there is some value in watching hardcore streams and seeing people die. But yeah, who was it? Yeah, so we were talking about voting on the rules, and Gina Lovie, that's part of the reason why we're doing the stream. Maybe we can transition into our two last points of this stream. And bear with us, stick around. This is the first stream, and we're trying out the new format, but I definitely want the community involved in some of these decisions that have come up the last couple of weeks, and this is really the reason why I think we're starting this podcast and why I feel like it's essential for our community. And one of the first technicalities I want to bring to the community, and I think Kargoz and Nomnom, we talked about this right before we started, but in the context of dungeons, what do you guys think about, because this technicality came up last time where we ran outside of the dungeon. Me and Kargoz, we were in a duo environment. We were trying to two-man stockades, and you know, Graysfordays jumped out of the closet, pulled one of the mobs tied to one of the bosses, and so it was like a 4-pull. And with just a mage and a paladin, I screamed at Kargoz like, "Dude, let's get out of the dungeon right now. We got to reset." I messed up, and so we ran out of the dungeon. We came back and we cleaned it up easily, and then we saw a lot of people in the Discord in the feedback section say that they didn't necessarily agree with that rule set, or there's a technicality. I thought one dungeon meant one try, and so maybe we can open this up to the community, and I'll share my thoughts on what I think about it. Whenever I look at the dungeon rules, and whenever we're trying to enforce rules or encourage people to stick with a certain rule set, one thing I use as a rule of thumb is you have to look at the scope that we're working under right now, and we can only do so much, and so we try and enforce as few rules as possible because the moderation is just too difficult. If we were to, in this instance, where I stand is it's one instance ID. If you want to run out and reset the dungeon and you're still in your same 5-man group and nobody joins, or yeah, we could even talk about the possibility if somebody died, can you invite somebody else in? That might open up a whole new can of worms. But the way I see these 5-man dungeon groups is you have one instance ID and you can't reset it. But you can run outside the instance, but also respawns. I don't know if I want to go this far yet, but
Here's my thing: the more times you tell someone that you can't do something, it sucks. It feels bad, man, when you tell someone you can't do this because they're like, who are you, the fucking hardcore police? Like, you know. So it's like, I just try to keep things as simple as possible. And, you know, we're all trying to have fun and play the game still, too. So if you tell people, like, no, man, you have to fight where you stand in the dungeon, you can't reset. It would buff the dungeons, you know, in that sense, if you couldn't run out at all. But at the same time, you have to think about all the other little things that you may not think about initially. What if somebody forgets to get food or water? You know, they want to run out and get some food and water. Or if they forget to loot a quest item in SM, they forget to click the book. Now they can't go back in and get the book. You know, I could see situations where drama would come because they're like, yo, this is some bullshit. Like, what if someone, you know, DC'd or glitched out and they pull a bunch of things in the dungeon and now they can't zone out and they're gonna be like, yo, this is bullshit. We just aggroed the whole instance and through some bug or something, now we're all dead. These are things I think about. You know, I just, you know, keep it simple. One instance reset. If that means people are sweaty enough that they want to stay inside the dungeon and wait for the respawn so they can kill trash over and over again, yes, that sounds problematic, but at the same time, the XP per hour is going to be so dog shit, right? Like, how long does it take for respawns to come in? Like 15 minutes or something? And you'd have to be like hovering around the instance to go back in and cleave them down or something. I don't, you know. So
I mean, I was watching your guys stream live. I didn't have a problem that you guys ran out and reset it. I saw the chat kind of blowing up, but it just naturally, that's what happened with a regular team, right? You go in, someone just messes up and pulls, or let's say you forget to buy water, or there's a quest outside. I think a little common sense needs to be applied to it. I didn't have a problem with it, so and to your point, if you want to hang out, then farm respawns. I mean, I guess, you know, let's just keep it simple. You know, as all three of us always say, it's not that serious.
Right.
Just I think less rules is better.
Yeah, and like, if you're trying to be a lawyer and you're trying to nitpick the rules, I know that they're not fully fleshed out and they could probably be written a little bit better. But like, if you're coming up with a technicality, or you're trying to exploit the system, it's, you know, use common sense. It's like that's not the way it was necessarily intended. So it's probably going to be frowned upon. But we just don't necessarily want people to exploit the rules. That's not the purpose of the rule set. Not so you could nitpick it and figure out where you can, you know, get around them. But like Atosh said, are there any dungeons where respawns are enough to make it worth killing them? And I will say, I think that someone told me this, and I don't know that it's confirmed, but in the SM graveyard, if you get a rare spawn, so you have one instance ID, if you were to zone in and you have one rare spawn, that is in that instance ID, I think that you can kill them, and somebody told me if you wait long enough for the respawns, like 20 minutes, the rare spawns will respawn, and those rare spawns have insane loot. So I can imagine a scenario where a rogue goes in at level, you know, 38, and I think there's a couple items where it would be beneficial. In our Stockades run, we went and killed the respawns just so we'd have a clear path to run outside the instance, and I got some amazing blue shoulders on respawns that I wouldn't have gotten. And so there's definitely, you know, a topic of discussion, like technicalities that would come about whenever we're talking about respawns. But again, if somebody wants to sit in that one instance ID and farm respawns for 24 hours, so be it. I think that's kind of where we stand.
Yeah, at the end of the day, someone is technically, you know, capable of farming green mobs the whole way up. They could probably do it. But the main thing that I would say, because some people always say that in the chat, like, oh, that's not hard, you could just do that. So go do it. Yeah, like, once you're there on that beach with the turtles right in front of you, I've been on that beach, man. I've seen the turtles. It just, like, you have to be a robot in order to stay there for that long. Like, it's just too slow, man. It would take you so long, and it's so boring that you have to freaking risk it for the biscuit a little bit. It's human nature. And if for some crazy reason you are a straight up robot and you're going to do that over the course of the next 6 months and kill turtles, Godspeed, man. We'll give you the verified, bro. Like, yeah, it's not that serious. Like, good man. Good job, bro. Turtle Slayer badge or something, man. It's
sure.
Yeah, just the human nature, man. Just to be able to fight green mobs that long. I mean, you're talking about adding legit like 5 to 10 more days of playtime. You know, so yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe this is something we put kind of a vote to the community on the instance thing. I mean, I think we all kind of have. We're all around the same ballpark, but I don't really know what the concrete solution is. I think people want to have a concrete solution, and I feel like we're coming up with good ideas, but I don't think we've answered the question at all.
Yeah. So here's one thing that I want to bring up too. I think it would be realistic and I think possible and would be awesome for the community if we could get Blizzard a little more on board with the whole idea of verifying 60s, or maybe this is okay. What do you guys think? Is this less of a stretch than telling Blizzard to make hardcore servers to get them to add a deaths command, right? Or getting them to add like an auctions used command, or any of those commands that would track a character's interactions, you know, whatever those would be. I don't know, like a dungeons. No, that's not a thing. But a deaths command, and what else would we put there?
A trade, like a trade command, because there's no trading in game. Like if you can somehow track if people were to trade or not. Yeah, I like the idea of that so much more than an official hardcore server. If they gave us just those few tools, it would definitely make our community thrive, and like the verification process a lot more solid. And this is a great point. This is going to be our last topic of discussion. Then we're going to go into a little bit of Q&A right at the end. So if you have any questions, we'll try and answer them. But the last point I want to go over today is the verification process. And there's been a lot of nuance thrown around here and there. Myself, Nomnom, and Kargoz probably all give a little bit different answer in each of our streams whenever people talk about the verification. But if we can lay out the verification process real quick, all of our thoughts, maybe your thoughts, and then maybe we can all come together just so we don't have to give, you know, our own rendition of the answer in our streams. We can all come to a collective consensus today. But to be verified as a level 60 character in hardcore, the rules, the way they are currently, you have to stream or record, in theory, 100% of your run. What I always say is 98%. If you have 98% of the VODs recorded, you upload them to YouTube, and then you get a GM verification that verifies you haven't died at all. And so some people say, well, why do I need to record if I can get the GM to say I have 0 deaths? It's just to confirm that you didn't trade, you didn't get twinked out, you didn't get boosted by a mage, you didn't do dungeons over and over again. So the way the rules are right now, you have to stream or record locally, and you have to get the, you know, what I would say 98% of your run, and you have to get the GM ticket that says you have 0 deaths. There's a lot of nuance. Yeah. What
we talked about earlier is that we get all the time, probably the most common thing that you get as a mod in the Discord, and we need more help for mods, by the way. If anybody's trying to step up to the plate and be like a champion of the community and, you know, drive it forward and all like that, we could use some reinforcements, fam. But is you know, the overwhelming amount of things is DC tickets, right? Or people like, oh, dude, my file got corrupted, or, you know, like, I lost some footage, man. Like, what am I going to do? Is it all over for me? And it just feels like the worst thing in the world ever to say, sorry, bro, your run scuffed. Like, GG, go reroll. No one is trying to say that to people, you know? So, like, as much as possible, we're trying to, like, be as understanding as possible. And, like, kind of the way we've been talking about it internally as mods is that, you know, if you're missing footage, right, at some point, there probably has to be some sort of cap where you can't just be missing half of your run, right? But if you're missing a smallish amount of footage, you get like a 1 strike. Be like, all right, you're good to keep playing, man. You know, we get they could have died, but you getting that 60 verified title is contingent upon getting the GM verification. So, like, without that GM verification, you wouldn't get, you know, validated and get all the gamer clout and featured on the website.
Yeah, I mean, I have, as I looked at my Discord, I have 38 people that have DM'd me just with different situations, and we're on about the same page. So if it's a small amount of time, you know, I just tell them that you need to not have anything else missing, and you need the GM verification, because we don't know what happened during that time frame. The GM verification to me isn't important if you have 100% recorded or streamed, right? Because every second can be watched. So I mean, I think it's just pretty simple. And to your point, I don't want to tell somebody to redo 2 days because they forget to hit the record button for 45 minutes. But you do need to get verified that you didn't die, because I don't know what you did in the 45 minutes. But, you know, we want people to have fun. Like, we want more people to succeed. And I'm not trying to tell. I'm not the master of anybody. I don't want to tell somebody their /days played 2 days is over. You know. Yeah.
I mean, what would be the cap though of missing footage for you guys? You know, like, it's the type of thing that it couldn't really be percentage based, because you could just drag out your run until it becomes 1%. You know, if you're missing 10 hours and you just play for like 20 days and then you get 60, you know, but yeah, there would have to be some sort of cap, I guess. You know, it feels horrible, man. But I mean, I would say, I'm just shooting from the hip here, guys, like 3 hours. I mean,
yeah. What if your computer crashes? You're on a 7-hour session and that 7 hours is instantly gone.
True.
There's a lot of nuance around this rule, and maybe we could go around in circles in how we want to answer it. Maybe the best course of action whenever something like this happens, or you do lose a whole game session worth of footage, you just show, as soon as you start your next recording or stream, I would encourage you to just open up the character pane, be as proactive as possible. If you don't want to lose your run, try and show the mods, try and prove to the recording that you didn't do anything in that 7 hours lost of footage. You get the GM, you know, the one thing we can't verify is whether you died or not, but if you get the GM ticket, maybe it makes up those last 7 hours. You show everything in your bank, your bags, your gold amount, and your gear. And maybe your skills and stuff. And so if you make the case for yourself, like, again, it's not that serious, but if you want to hold the integrity of the game mode, we're definitely going to have to like require that you go the extra mile in proving that you didn't do anything against the rules, if you have like a gap in space like that.
Yeah, I think, you know, Gian Lavoie in the chat said something, and some people have said this too. It needs to be on a case-by-case basis. The more and more I think about it, I almost feel like, I mean, that's how we've been handling it, guys. Like, we have a little mod chat thing, and there's about a dozen of us or so, maybe a little bit more at this point. So if somebody's right on the edge, we'll just throw it in there, and then everybody can vote on it to see if like they think it's fine or not. That's kind of the best option we have until we get some sort of Blizzard support here with some commands or something, right? Like just case by case. I don't know, unless you think there really is like just a hard number to stick to of like how much footage you're missing.
Yeah, I mean, every person that sent me something and I've asked them to send proof, it's always been like detailed, the before, after, like pictures of the bags. You know, I don't think anybody's really trying to, you know, to try to skimp on the challenge. But yeah, I think it needs to be case by case. But I've seen anywhere from like 30 minutes to 3 hours. But in every case, it all seemed legit. So yeah, I told them to go forward.
99.5% of the people in this community, like if you were trying to like profiteer off WoW, exploit WoW, or whatever, like you probably wouldn't be here, right? Like why would you do that in hardcore? It just seems like counterproductive. You would go do that in just the retail version of the game and try to scamaz your way to the top, you know, or just the normal version of the game. I'm not sure, you know, but I think things are set up in a way that 99.5% of people are, you know, are in it for the right reasons and all that type of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've been all over the place, guys, and that's kind of the 3 topics we had prepared today. If anybody has any, you know, burning questions and you want to get like the community's thoughts on it, maybe while all 3 of us are here together and the rest of the community, we could even do some polls. If anybody has any questions, you know, maybe we can do like 5 or 10 minutes of Q&A and then wrap it up. We're going to keep these kind of short, but it would be really neat to have these on like a week-to-week basis, because I swear, I hope that you guys kind of saw the format of today. If you have any questions about website improvements, Discord improvements, what you want to see the community add in one way or another, this is the time to shoot your shot. And I'm hoping that before we go any further, I want to see you guys' questions, but I would encourage you this week, before we have anything set up like on the website or anything, I would go to the Discord and hardcore, because I plan on doing this next week or maybe a bi-weekly thing. But put your thoughts that you want us to answer into the feedback section, and then we'll make a section for that on one of the next streams. If anybody has anything, I saw a couple questions. I didn't write them down, but we can hang around for a moment.
I mean, real quick, I mean, Kigo makes a good point. Just kind of get in the habit. I do it too. Just maybe before you start your stream, open up your bags. Just, you know, show how much money you have, you know, your current level, you know, your items, you know, it that way, if you forget to record for a small period of time or there's something missing, you know, it just makes it easier when you send it to the mods. I mean, that's just something that doesn't require a lot of effort, but you know, it shows good intent.
The other thing I just want to throw out there, guys, how many wholesome communities do you have in your life right now? Take a good look at yourself. Whether you have like a soccer league, whatever, maybe you have a couple. It's hard, man, to like keep a community going. What makes a good community? How to stop it from crumbling or imploding, like 99% of them do at some point. It's so easy to ruin a good thing. It's so easy in the internet digital age to just walk away from your computer and just block someone and never talk to them again. But it takes so long to build something, you know, to build something worth it, right? It takes months, you know, and just keep that in mind, man. It takes months to build a good thing, but it takes 2 milliseconds to just walk away from something. So whatever you guys can do to try to keep it going. You know, I assume we're going to lose a lot of players come Shadowlands. Shadowlands is going to come out, probably lose half the player base. That's fine with me. I'm fine with that. I'm just like, I'm fine. That's. I mean, it sucks to a certain extent, but you know, I don't know where I'm going with this, but you see what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, when there was like that kind of gap when no one was doing it, there was only 5 of us doing it, man, and I was still having a blast. So yeah, it's the challenge is fun in its own right. So yeah, as long as you're surrounded by people that like to do it, yeah, I think it's gonna be a blast regardless.
Oh yeah, Winky just got his verification. He said he just got his GM verification email, confirming that he got 0 deaths. So grats on Winky.
Nice grats, Winky.
He'll be in the Hall of Legends soon. And then Desgador asked if we've been cleared to play on a valid DC death. If when we get to 60, will the Blizz GM need to verify that 1 death, since obviously they'll show 1 and not 0? Yeah, exactly, Desgador. That's the great thing about not having an official hardcore server or a private server, where if you were to disconnect and you lose your level 52 hardcore character that it took you 3 months to get to, that's the good thing about how we're running hardcore right now is you can continue and still be verified if you hit level 60. If you had 3 disconnect deaths and they were all cleared to play on, the scenario would be you hit 60, you have your whole stream recorded, and then you have those 3 disconnects recorded, and you line that up with the amount of deaths that you have on the GM verification ticket. So that's a good question. If anybody else has anything, now's the time to shoot your shot. I really do appreciate y'all showing up and being interactive. I think it's been a
big
success,
grenade when they all come here.
I want to keep these short and sweet. I'm gonna do a lot more research on like old school RuneScape, and I really do see our hardcore community, our little niche, almost as like our own game mode. This is Classic Plus, and I talk about it on stream all the time. We're creating our own game right now, and everybody has these fantasies of Classic Plus and WoW 2, and I'm really excited about the GMA tomorrow. They're gonna have Kevin Jordan on, and so I'm hoping that maybe the things that got talked about today, the pros and cons of an official hardcore server, we'll be able to hear it from one of the guys himself who made the game. I'm really looking forward to that podcast. But yeah, we got a good thing going.
We really do, man. I can't thank all of you guys enough. I mean, there's a lot of stuff we need, though, man. There's a lot more potential with this stuff. The achievement system, the seasons, and pretty much what you're seeing here is what you get. There's no high-speed team of engineers behind the scenes working on this stuff. It's just some sweaty neckbeards like you guys. Like we don't have many skills, but we're trying to do something. So if anybody has skills that can bring to the table, like shout out to Skennedy for making the add-on, shout out to Brandung for making the most glorious art assets I've ever seen. Literally looks better than the Shadowlands logo. Scouts Honor, polygraph me. I actually do believe this hardcore logo looks better than the Shadowlands logo. All this good stuff, man. Let's collab. And if anybody's trying to get into streaming too, I like how the hardcore people host other hardcore people, and are trying to spread the love, share the bread, all that type of stuff. So
yeah, if anybody, I mean, it's really neat that we're doing this podcast. I'm hoping that this continues in some capacity. If anybody wants to have like a gazetteer or like a newspaper cast or like a death and delete podcast where you highlight deaths and you highlight the highlight reels, I would love to back that. A lot of us, if you have an idea and you really want to put your best foot forward, like the community is here. We're hosting people nonstop. If you want to be the next big thing, or you have goals and ambitions, everybody's doing their own thing in this hardcore community. So we're, like Kargoz said, we're always looking for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Well, it looks like we're pretty much wrapped up. It's going to be a lot more formatted the next time we do one of these. I'm really happy about how it turned out.
There might be room to do multiple too, man, because there could be more constructive ones like this, guys. I don't know what you think. We're really trying to get like productive and fix some potential issues, or nip some stuff in the butt before it turns into drama or whatever. But there also could be fun podcasts where we're just reviewing death clips and highlights and just cracking up, and just
right,
that type of stuff too. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, this just kind of got thrown together, and I think it's been a success. But yeah, to your point, yeah, if it's more structured and we can have a few different like topics, yeah, I think it'd be great. So it's just great to be able to interact with the whole community. You just saw it one time.
Absolutely. We're a small fish. We're a little minnow in a small pond. And they I don't know. We're a subset of a subset of a subset of a community. So, yeah.
That's great, man. Yeah, I really do. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I don't want these things to drag out because I want them to be digestible, and But yeah, I really do appreciate Kargoz, Nomnom, you guys, everything you do for the community. Thanks for being here and being a part of the discussion.
Hell yeah. Can we get some love to see it's for Grays? Like, just putting it all together, man. Grays put this whole thing together, man. I'll put some in here.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was great to be a part of this. I love you guys, man. I love the community. It's great.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm probably gonna drop from the Discord here. I know I got a lot of Kargoz viewers, so if you're not a Grays fan, you know, now's the time to leave. But I'm probably gonna play a little bit of hardcore myself. Nomnom's probably gonna go live pretty soon. I don't know what your plans are for the day.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go about 30 minutes. So.
I'm sure a lot of y'all are playing hardcore yourself. So I, again, just appreciate you guys, and hopefully we'll see more come out of the community in the next couple weeks.
Hell yeah, get out there and have fun. Stay safe, yo. It is mad fun, bro. Hey, hardcore, it's just fun, man. It's fun.
Yeah, for anybody that hasn't tried it, just do it, man. It doesn't matter. Just do it, man. It's fun, man. It makes the game great again.
It really does.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Take
All
care,
right,
fellas.
thanks again, guys.
All right,
Peace.
peace, guys.